Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's Zoom meeting. My name is Kay, and I'll be facilitating this discussion. Before we begin, I want to thank each of you for taking the time to join us. This space is intended to be informative, supportive, and solution-oriented as we address family court. We encourage open, respectful dialogue and active participation. To ensure a smooth experience, please keep the following in mind. Please mute your microphone when not speaking to minimize background noise. If you'd like to contribute, use the raise hand feature or drop your question in the chat. This session is being recorded. It will be available on my YouTube channel. Please be mindful of confidentiality. What is shared here should remain within this group unless explicitly agreed upon. Before we dive into the discussion, I want to provide a brief disclaimer. The information shared in this meeting is for general discussion purposes only and does not constitute legal, medical, or professional advice. If you require specific guidance, we encourage you to consult with a qualified professional. Additionally, while we strive to foster a safe and respectful environment, we cannot guarantee confidentiality outside of this space. We ask that all participants engage with integrity and respect one another. I have a motto. We are either in competition or community. By continuing to participate in this meeting, you acknowledge and agree to those terms. If at any point you feel uncomfortable, you are welcome to step away or reach out privately for support. Thank you again for being here. Let's begin. So, lesson 1, Family Court 101, winning strategies for protective parents. Lesson 1, the burden of proof and how to use it to your advantage. Understand who has the burden of proof and how to shift it onto the opposing party. Learn how courts weigh evidence in custody cases and how to ensure your evidence meets admissibility standards. Discover how to frame arguments so that the judge must address them under binding legal standards. Lesson 2 is presenting evidence that judge can't ignore. So there's a hierarchy of evidence that carries the most weight in custody disputes. And you also want to learn how to introduce key exhibits, text messages, recordings, affidavits properly. How to use judicial notice and case law to back up your claims in court. And then lesson 3 would be understanding judicial discretion and how to challenge it. The limits of judicial discretion and when it becomes abuse of discretion. Identifying due process violations in family court rulings. How to build a record for appeal while still in trial court. 2, filing an appeal, step-by-step blueprint. Lesson 1 on that would be identifying appealable errors in your custody cases. the difference between reversible error and harmless error in family court, how to analyze a court order for violations of due process and equal protection, when and how to file a motion for reconsideration before appealing, and lesson 2, writing an effective appellate brief, the components of a strong appellate brief, statement of facts, legal arguments, conclusion, how to use case law and statutes to frame appellate arguments, the role of constitutional arguments in family law appeals. Lesson 3, deadlines and procedure, how to avoid getting your appeal dismissed, understanding the timeline for filing appeals in family court, how to properly format and file appellate documents, the importance of preserving issues for appeal at the trial level, exposing corruption, media, legal complaints, and federal actions. The first lesson in there would be how to file judicial misconduct complaints that get results, identifying unethical behavior and due process violations by judges, the difference between state judicial complaint processes and federal 42 USC section 1983 claims, how to draft a misconduct complaint that triggers an investigation. And lesson 2 would be using the media and social pressure to expose family court corruption, how to get journalists and advocacy groups to cover your case, understanding defamation laws when speaking publicly about a judge, the power of public records, requests, and court watching initiatives. Lesson 3, when to file a federal civil rights lawsuit against the court, understanding 42 USC section 1983 and how it applies to family court violations. How to prove that your judge or court actor deprived you of constitutional rights. The steps to filing in federal court and seeking injunctive relief. So then we can move on to pro se litigants motion masterclass. And these are just, I'm talking about different lessons that I'll have in the workbooks and also in my courses coming up. And that's going to be drafting a motion that commands the court's attention, how to structure a motion using legal formatting and case law citations, key phrases that force the judge to address your argument, how to write a compelling memorandum of law to support your motion. And then we also are going to cover oral argument and courtroom strategy, the do's and don'ts of arguing a motion in court, how to counter opposing counsel's objections and procedural tricks, how to keep the judge focused on the law, not personal bias. And lesson 3, we are going to cover emergency motions and protective orders. When is it safe to file an emergency motion versus a regular motion? How much evidence do you need to have? The legal standards for obtaining temporary emergency custody, how to use federal protections like VAWA, the Hague Convention in emergency filings. We're also going to cover legal documentation and strategy by organizing your case file like a lawyer would. So the system for categorizing evidence, legal research, and court documents. We're going to show you how to create a case timeline that simplifies complex legal arguments and how to prepare a litigation notebook for quick access during hearings. Um, legal writing techniques that make judges take you seriously will be covered in my courses. We're going to cover how to write clear, persuasive legal arguments without a lawyer, avoiding common pro se mistakes like emotional language, excessive detail, or weak citations. We're going to teach you how to use IRAC, issue rule application conclusion, to strengthen your legal reasoning. We're going to help you prepare for trial without an attorney, how to structure direct and cross examinations effectively, understanding courtroom procedure and objection rules, how to introduce exhibits and witness testimony without a lawyer. So ever feel like the judge in your case just makes whatever decision they want? No logical, no accountability. That's called judicial discretion. And while judges have some leeway, they're not above the law. Today, I'm going to show you how to spot when a judge is abusing their discretion and how to fight back. Judicial discretion is the judge's ability to make decisions based on the facts of the case. But here's the thing, discretion is not unlimited. It must be based on the law, precedent, and reasoned judgment. Here's the hard truth. Some judges take discretion as a free pass to do whatever they want. That's not how the law works. If you've ever been in court and thought, this isn't fair, here's how to tell if the judge actually broke the law. If you try to submit valid evidence and the judge won't even look at it, red flag. They have to state a legal reason for rejecting evidence. Judges cannot just make up rules. If they issue an order that contradicts state custody laws or ignores statutes, you can challenge it. If a judge repeatedly favors your ex, interrupting you, ignoring your filings, or siding with them without explanation, you could have grounds for an appeal. If any of this sounds familiar, you might have a case for an appeal or even a complaint against the judge. So what do you do when a judge abuses their discretion? You have options, and I'm going to walk you through them step by step. So the first thing that you can do is file a motion for reconsideration. So before you appeal, you can ask the judge to reconsider their decision. Here's the key. Cite the exact law or rule they violated and state why their ruling was legally incorrect. For example, Your Honor, this ruling violates state custody statute because it does not consider both parents equally. And then you're going to want to then preserve your case for appeal. If the judge still refuses to follow the law, you need to build your case for appeal. That means getting everything on the record. Always object in court if something is unfair. File written motions and responses. Don't rely on verbal arguments. Ask for a court reporter to ensure everything is recorded. Make sure you are getting all of your evidence on the record. If they even give you a second to speak on record, make sure that you state all of the violations to your state constitutional rights, and any statutes. And then you're going to file a judicial complaint or appeal. If you have clear evidence of judicial misconduct, you can file an judicial complaint with the state's oversight board. If it's a legal error, you can file an appeal in a higher court. So which option is right for you? A motion for consideration if the ruling was unfair but fixable. An appeal if the judge broke the law or made a major legal mistake. Judicial complaint if the judge showed bias, ignored evidence, or acted unethically. So now you know the truth. Judges aren't untouchable, and you have the power in court. So if you want to see real examples of winning appeals and motions, then keep in contact with me. My workbook is coming out, and I'm going to have courses like this that are going to be available really soon, and I hope to see you all there. Thank you so much for joining me today, and just I'm thankful for you. Keep fighting. There's always another possibility. And I know that miracles can happen. So keep fighting.